All right, as you guys are popping on, if you don't mind just going to menti.com and using the code 2285-0591 for a quick survey. We really want to understand where you are all coming from. And while you're waiting another sec, have you followed us on social media yet? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Evan, you're going to want to turn sideways. Better. Actually, turn, if you're on a phone, turn it so we can see you the way he leads it. If that's possible. All right. All right, so Evan, Adam, let's see your faces. For those of you who have not done menti.com yet, please do so now. Follow us on social media. We are going to get started. All right. Well, welcome to Jewish Fertility Foundation's panel conversation, My Life as a Donor-Conceived Person. So I'm Ilana Frank. I'm the CEO and founder of Jewish Fertility Foundation. I will let you know a little bit about who we are and then about myself personally. So Jewish Fertility Foundation is an organization that started about almost 7 years ago in Atlanta, Georgia. And today our mission is to help people who are experiencing infertility in 3 specific ways. We offer financial support by way of fertility grants, as well as emotional support through support groups and a peer-to-peer mentorship program called our Fertility Buddies program. And we do educational trainings specifically for fertility clinics for the Jewish community, as well as the community in general, like we're doing tonight. And why did I start this? Like perhaps many of you out there today, some of the 326 RSVPs for this evening, I too myself experienced infertility. And today I have 3 amazing boys born through various forms of treatment, 2 of whom are biologically related to my husband and I, and were created through IVF. And my 3rd child is born via embryo donation. So I am really, really personally excited to hear from all of the amazing panelists today, because I myself have many questions, sometimes concerns, sometimes anxiety, excitement about my child's future. And when we were doing this 3-part series of our webinar around raising donor-conceived children and people, we heard from amazing professional psychologists, we heard from experts, but many of you had questions and wanted to hear follow-up from the kids, young adults. So here we are today. We're excited to speak with, 3 panelists today, maybe a 4th will be popping in, and all of whom were donor conceived. And they're just so open and amazing, and they're going to be sharing their experiences with you tonight. They're not going to be telling you what to do or how to raise your child. That's for you. but they are going to be sharing their experiences, their personal experiences with us. We've received literally like 125 questions for tonight's webinar, and we're not going to be able to answer everything, but we are going to be answering the most commonly asked questions. I do want to give a big shout out to Sharon Feingold for spearheading the discussion. Again, we've had over, RSVPs are still coming in and the program has already started, but we've had over 327 now RSVPs. So we know that this is an important conversation to be having. And we're always happy to listen to the needs of our community and continue these conversations. So what I want to do right now, panelists, everybody should have a glass of water, LaCroix, whatever your drink of preference, because you might get thirsty along the way. But I want you all to state your name, your age, where are you sitting right now, and if you can tell me about your family background, like if you have a mom, a dad, two moms, single mom by choice, whatever your family looks like. When did you find out you were donor conceived? And what is your contact, if any, with the donor? So Emily, if you don't mind, my sidekick today, if you don't mind writing these questions in the chat. Why don't we start with you, Healy?
Okay, I think you might have cut out at the very end, but I heard start with me.
Let's start with you. So name, age, location. Start with that.
Okay, my name is Healit Jacobson. I am 26 and I am sitting in my kitchen in Asheville, North Carolina.
Amazing. And tell us, okay, you got the others. What did your family background look like?
Yeah, I'm from Atlanta. I have a mom and dad, and my dad could not have kids, so my parents chose to use a sperm donor. And I have a twin brother with the sperm donor, and Adam is my half brother with the same sperm donor.
And when did you find out that you were donor conceived?
I don't remember specifically when I found out. My mom is an educator, and I think that she always had books for us to read, and she and my dad kept the conversation really open so that it was always a part of our story growing up.
Amazing. And do you have contact today with your donor?
I do not. I choose not to. I've seen a picture or two of him, I think around when I was 19 or 20 was the first time I saw a picture. But I don't have contact, and that's a choice that I very intentionally make.
And we'll get into that a little bit more in a few minutes. Thank you, Evan. Your fan was a little distracting. Adam, why don't we go to you next? Tell us a little bit about yourself. We know your name. How old are you, your location, and
yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah, Adam Haas here. Nice to be here and be able to speak to everyone. I'm 26 as well. I am currently in my bedroom in Los Angeles, California. I grew up with two mothers, and I don't have any other full siblings. I do though have about like 15 half siblings through my sperm donor that I found out about when I was like a teenager. And Halit is one of them, and I've been lucky enough to get to be close with Halit and spend time with her and get to know her. So that's been a great experience. And she invited me to do this. So thank you, Halit. I'm happy to be here and share what I can.
Amazing. And do you have contact with your other 15 half siblings?
We have like a Facebook group. We like do have the ability to be contacted. Like I know who all of them are, but I have only met 4 of them. And really only gotten like to be close or spend a lot of time with Halit and her brother Jonah.
And did you choose to reach out or have contact with your donor?
No, I choose not to. I'm not like super against it, but to me it just doesn't have an impact in my life, so I just choose not to, I suppose. But we can definitely get into that more.
All right. And Evan, talk to us. Same questions for you. Who are you? How old are you? Where are you located?
My name is Evan Neff, and I'm 16 from Houston, Texas. I was raised by a single mother by choice, who used a sperm donor and egg donor. And I have like 7, 8 half siblings, all that really are pretty close. We've met up like three-ish times, and one of them, Lizzie, should be joining soon, hopefully. Uh, and for me, I've emailed the donor like maybe back and forth a few years ago once, but that's about all the contact I have with him, just by choice.
Fair. And is it just you and your mom, or do you have other siblings?
It's just me and my mom.
Got it. All right, so we are going to be joined by 2 others momentarily, but why don't we go ahead and just start with some of the first questions. We get this a lot. Healy is coming back on. So we get this a lot, and I also, as somebody, I mean, one of my babies is 2 years old, and language, I think I was so fixated on language of how we were going to talk about the donor and the child. What is correct lingo when discussing donor conception? Do you have a preferred term for your donor, for your half siblings? I've heard some of the things that you guys have been saying. Who would like to kick this off? Maybe he leads. Wait, you're on mute.
Still
Wait,
on
you're
mute.
still on mute.
You like went off.
Okay, I'm here.
Yeah.
So sorry. I use the term donors or sperm donor to refer to my donor, and I call my half siblings, and that's about all the words that I use. That's what most of the people in my family use, I think.
Evan, Adam.
Yep, I use the same thing. I think donor, sperm donor, that's what I remember being like told by my mom growing up, was sperm donor, and that's all I've used, and that's mostly what I've heard like my half siblings use.
Not a fan of the word dibbling, if that was, I guess there's nothing wrong with it. I think it kind of sounds weird, and I've never actually heard someone use it in like all seriousness, but.
And did you guys ever have to agree on terms, or that's what you just understood from your parents? Like that's just how it came about?
That's just how it was.
So honestly, it's not as big of a deal as I would probably, as a mom, making it out to be for my family.
Yeah, probably not.
Okay, so let's get into it. Privacy versus secrecy. I've definitely seen a shift in openness in the last decade, and how people have been just open with their children, with their families. What do you think is the best way and the best time, like the age of the child, for a parent to tell their child that their donor conceived?
I don't know. We kind of all don't think that there is like a defined answer to that question. I feel like it's more about how you talk about the donor as opposed to like timing. To me, it was like my mom probably told me many times when I was younger, but like that didn't really make an impact on me until like I was old enough to understand what that really meant. So to me, it's like the reaction that your kid is going to have is very dependent on their age and like how they can really grasp what it is. Like my mom, I think, explained it to me like, this is like it in terms of like it's kind of transactional. Like we used a sperm donor. It's not like you have a sperm donor out there. Like that's how my mind looked at it, I think, which maybe leads me to have a perspective of like, okay, I'm not that interested in learning about who he is or meeting him or something. Like that's my experience, and I think it was a good way to understand it personally.
I have never thought about it that way with the language used, but my parents did the exact same. And even now, I always say I have a sperm donor or I was donor conceived. And you're making me think that that might be at least part of the reason why I view him in the way that I do. It was for our family, it was always something where we were very grateful and we were not told to be grateful, but just generally knew that we were thankful for this person who allowed my parents to have us. Parents were so immensely grateful to him.
Technology. All right. Well, while he lead is frozen, Lizzie, welcome to the show. We are so excited to have you. If you can just tell us.
It's finals week and my phone was dead, and
we are lucky to have you. We have a lot of people who are very, very, not to put you on the spot, but who are very excited to meet you and hear from you, hear what you have to say. So why don't you just tell us quickly, where are you? How old are you?
I'm currently at Bennington College. I am 19, almost 20, 2 weeks. And yes, I was conceived with a single mother by choice. I'm from New York City, at school in Vermont. And
when did you find out you were donor conceived?
I've known that I was conceived with donor sperm from as soon as, like, before I could talk. It was just always there, which I super appreciate. Yeah.
And do you have contact with the donor at all?
Yes. So Evan and I found our donor in 2017 through a DNA test. That's actually how Evan and I found each other as well. Right when 2017, when ancestry DNA tests were just becoming commercialized, we kind of all found each other within, what is it, like 6 months, I think?
Yeah.
And we've had, semi-consistent communication with him, I think. Wow. Which is, when we have questions, he answers them. And
what, like medical questions or life questions?
Medical, family, kind of whatever. He's just amazing about responding to whatever it is. And like, that's the kind of relationship we have where, like, there's boundaries, there's respectful boundaries that we both kind of set up, but, super chill.
Amazing. Thank you. So, a question that we got, we highlighted my talking points. We highlighted the questions that we had several times. So one of the questions we have for you, was it hard growing up knowing that you were donor conceived? What was it like for you, like growing up in middle school and high school, thinking about all of this?
Wait, is this one for me or is this out there?
It can be for you, but anybody. It's a shout out to anybody who would like to answer. Lizzie, why don't you start?
Okay. Well, I've always known. And so it was, I think, more so in elementary school when not everyone had that talk. It was a little more confusing for friends, but I was, very willing to, not even willing, I would just, there was no filter, no natural filter. And then it just, I was explaining it and then I had a couple of like, but like, that's not how the stork works. And I was like, wait till I tell you about this.
Was there ever any awkward moments with your friends, with your peers?
Definitely some of like like you have a relation, like you have one type of relationship that like, I'll never know, but like, that's okay. And like, I've kind of realized there's no void. There's no like empty space that should be filled. It's just not there, I think. Yeah.
Anybody else? We're trying just to be as honest as possible because the parents and intended parents who are with us today, again, we have a very large audience of people who really genuinely want to grow their families or have grown their families through amazing donors. And we want to hear, how you guys are and how you grew up, and as honest and blunt as possible is totally cool in this space. Healy, what are your thoughts? Or Evan, go for it.
Just from the point of somebody that like didn't find out until somewhat later in life. I found out about my sperm donor in 7th grade and my egg donor in 8th grade, both off of me finding out by myself and not my mom like telling me. And so on both instances, I would have to like go up to my mom and like talk to her about it, like, yeah, like I know this. But I definitely wish my mom would have been more open about it and is more open about it today. I wish she would have like told me from when I was little. I really like the point that Adam made, like about the language that you use and like how your kid understands it, and just bringing them up with it.
Keely, Adam, anything to add?
The only area where I maybe spend more time thinking about the donor is in all the elements of my personality and myself that I can't look at my dad and say, okay, I got that from him, or I got this from my mom, or it's just a me thing.
Mhm.
And it's been really nice having and meeting so many of our half siblings, because you can piece it together a little bit more. I don't know. I would assume that now the donor profiles are a little bit more extensive than they were in the mid 90s and early 90s when my parents used a donor. But it was never, I think, because my parents were so open about us being donor conceived. I grew up with a really positive outlook on myself. I had a really supportive community around me who was also aware of how we were conceived. And I know that that helps a lot. So not only the parents being open, but also being open within the community in a way that feels consensual and okay for the kid.
Is there anything else that you guys might add for people, parents like us, about helping to navigate questions when your kids have them? So I know, Evan, you didn't necessarily have the chance to have your mom tell you. You had to find out on your own. But what could we do if our kid has a question like, how come my toes don't look like yours? Or, I'm in the baby stage, but any advice for the parents on navigating some tough questions from the children? Openness is definitely something I heard already.
Totally. Openness is super good. I feel like, I don't know, like, I guess like comfort in that, like, if like saying like, I am your parent, like, and I'm here for you. Like, yes, you use a sperm donor, but like your parents are telling you like that is how you were made, but like I am here to be your parent and take care of you. Like maybe I'm not articulating it super well, but like it's like a feeling that like there's not this like other foreign thing that you don't know about out there that like owes you something or like has a part in your life, because that's kind of like an ominous thought almost. It's like, we are your family. I think my parents like emphasize that a lot. And to me, like it's much more nurture over nature. And I think that's proven scientifically in how someone is raised. I mean, you look at like twins who are separated at birth and like where they are when they reunited, they're different people personality wise usually. And that is, I mean, that's scientific and that's kind of proven. So to me, it's just like emphasizing that like this is your situation and it might be different, but like we're your parents and we're here for you. Like those are important things to reiterate to your kids and make them comfortable with the situation they're in.
That's exactly how my parents talked to us, and I think it had a huge impact. I think that one of the main parts of vulnerability within my family comes from my dad, and he's really open about that now, but it's taken a lot of time to get there. And the thing that makes him feel as comfortable now compared to when he and my mom were deciding to use a sperm donor is the fact that he knows that we see him as our dad 100%, and that we see the donor as the donor. And that's really because they always raised us with the idea that family is who takes care of you, who looks out for you, who you can trust, all those things. And that's really special. I think it's actually given me an advantage in life to find people outside of my blood family who I can be really close with.
I love that.
Um,
So, oh yeah, Lindsay, go for it.
I think my kind of main thing is questions as they come up, to be, you know, as open and honest as you can with that, in whatever, you know, age appropriate way you see. You know, you wouldn't give like a toddler the same answer as like an 18-year-old. But I think, you know, kids can handle the truth. And like I got as much information as I could when I was little. The one thing that my mom did withhold was the donor profile. And, you know, she's talked about regretting that. I think that's like her one kind of, but that was her sister trying to like let me be my own person. And then there was a lot of, you know, like nature and nurture is one thing that I've definitely, I love psychology. That's like one of my kind of favorite things to focus in on that. And like, as I've met siblings, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Like with Evan, especially, I think there are so many things that just like make sense. And we have one sister, last time we were together, we did, what is it? The Myers-Briggs test.
Mhm.
And everyone had different answers. And then one sister and I had like within 3 points on every question. And we were just like, you know, and both of us were always like, you know, like, where do these parts of us come from? And so it's definitely cool to see. And I think, you know, my main point is, I think, just kind of letting your child lead the way on this, because it is their journey. But, you know, parents are parents, and but yeah.
Yep. I think that's a really good point. Like, to me, now that I'm thinking about like the leading of the journey, like the kids are going to take this information in and process it whatever way they do. And I think that like forcing a certain perspective or thought on your kid is going to make them more uncomfortable and make it more of a big deal in their mind. So like just putting the facts out there that like this happened, but like, you know, we're your family. That's what you need to know, and let them kind of process that is like the healthiest way to do it. Like, you know, being regimented on what you should think about it or like what it means to you is, I feel like, going to cause more of a reaction than just laying out what it is.
When you guys were told that you were donor conceived, some of you earlier, some of you found out on your own, did it change how you felt about your parents? I mean, I know you spoke a little bit about it, but did it make you want to go find your donor and find out more information, or change how you felt about your biofam?
I mean, I was definitely eager to find out more. I was a little bit confused, and I would say a little mad at my mom for me having to find out on my own and her not telling me, but it did not at all make me think of her as less of a mother to me. But I was definitely eager to find out more about like my genetics and where I came from, and I still do, but yeah.
Are you're still getting the answers that you need?
Yeah.
It's a process. And have you been able, you're slowly working on that relationship with your mom? About that. Anyone else have some thoughts about that?
It's a little different. But just a side note related to the question, all of our half siblings, Adam and I have like 15, maybe 16. And I think everyone feels pretty differently about the amount of contact they want to have with the donor. And it's kind of cool just to know that we are all so close in certain, I mean, we're all half siblings and a lot of us are close and still talk, and that we can be a family while everyone has their own opinion on the level of connection or lack of connection that they have with the donor. And I think for me, the biggest it almost seems like it's just the person's opinion more so even than how they were raised. I think that there is an element of how you're raised and told about the donor, but I think a lot of it is just like a person's curiosity. And some people want to pursue that and others don't. I don't know if one's more than the other. I just think that's also a component of it.
And also, can you tell us how you found your 15, maybe 16 half siblings?
Yeah, so my twin brother Jonah and I, who have the same mom and same sperm donor, we were the first siblings to connect out of our greater half sibling family, and we used donor sibling registry, which was created, I think, in like 2001 or 2002 by a donor conceived kid and his single mom by choice. And they were on like Oprah or some talk show.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And yeah, and after that, more families signed up and we connected with our first half sister. And then every year or so, we would just find out about more and more. And sometimes we would meet them. And eventually, once we were teenagers, it kind of lessened. And Adam was, I think, one of the later half siblings who we connected with, very luckily.
Amazing. I have a question, an additional question to like the 115, but if one of you were reaching out to your donors and you found out that they did not want to talk to you or communicate with you, how would you guys feel about that?
I would be like, that's fine. I mean, I think that just depends on if you're interested in talking to them. I wouldn't really mind. I don't have any specific questions for them or like anything I want to gather from their existence right now. So wouldn't be a huge issue for me personally.
I definitely had like a lot of different situations in my head growing up, but I don't think that was ever one of them. I think I was more concerned about him, this sounds morbid, but like dying before I met him than I was like finding him and then him not wanting to have contact. And I think one thing that, you know, anyone like from 2017 on, like there is no such thing as anonymity anymore. And I think that donors like from 2017 and on will have more of an understanding of that than, you know, donors from before DNA tests. Because I'm in a couple of Facebook groups and there is absolutely no such thing as anonymity. Like Evan and I know, like Evan found me just through like ancestry messages between me and his mom. Like you can find anyone.
What was that like? He reached out to you over a private message?
Well, I talked to I think his mom ran the account, and I had some talks with his mom, and I made sure to put my full name in the message. And then, Ev, do you want to tell yourself?
I decided that it's like, I just wanted to check up on my ancestry.com thing. And so I found like, I was just like looking through the messages and all, and I was like, oh, wow. And so I like just clicked on it and I read like all the conversations and I saw Lizzie Foreman from New York. And then I just went on Instagram and searched up Lizzie Foreman and there she was. And I just DM'd her.
That's also when you found out that you were donor conceived, like.
Yeah, the same night. Yeah.
I have this fear that my donor conceived child and like one of their half siblings or full siblings will meet at summer camp and, you know, hit it off. Do you guys ever think about something like that, or is that a mom fear?
No, that's a fear.
Right? Like, how do you know? I mean, I guess it's so important to be open, right? And it seems like all of you are, but.
Yeah, you're not safe until you see their dad and they look exactly like their dad. And then you can breathe. I would say both sides. Evan you live near your donor, your egg.
Yes, I live in the same city as my egg donor. Who people are asking questions about like if I've had contact with them or
Yeah.
not. I live in the same city as my egg donor and her entire family. So I mean, I guess it's been like a fear of mine of like just meeting one of them and like not knowing that they're like the cousin or something like that. But I'm not supposed, my mom told me like don't try to get in contact with her. But you know, when I was 13, I was like, whatever. And so I went snooping on Facebook and Ancestry, and I ended up finding her and messaging her, and she was super nice. I had a couple questions for her, and she answered them. She's really polite and nice. I haven't had contact with her in a year or two, maybe, but yeah, that's how that went.
All right. All right. Share more for people that might feel threatened or anxious about their children having relationships with donors or donor siblings.
I think it is very natural to be fearful or anxious because it's kind of uncharted territory for you if you're a parent. I would say that as long as you are from a donor conceived person's perspective, as long as you are open with your child and it doesn't feel like you're hiding something, I don't think that they're gonna talk to or meet their donor and assume that the donor is going to take over the role of a parent that you hold. And I think that it seems to me like a very natural fear, but coming from a child's perspective, the person who takes care of them as they're getting older and has held them and fed them and talks to them at night and tucks them in, that's going to be their parent. And I think that that might almost be more of a personal concern than one that should be put on the kid. I think it's natural. I just don't think that it's necessarily going to happen.
Lizzie, I hear you having some thoughts.
Yeah, so I think my main thing about this that just from my own experience and watching siblings kind of hesitate to want to meet and kind of a lot of different approaches to it. There's no such thing as too much love. Like there's no limit to it. I feel like donor siblings, like siblings especially, it's just more people to like have close to you, you know, and it's with the first brother that I met, and like every sibling after, it's just within half an hour, it was like I'd known him his whole life. And like our parents were saying the same thing. It's just, you know, you can read people differently. I think it's a different connection, but it's not one to be threatened by at all. No one's trying to replace anyone. Like psychologically, I understand the fear, but it's just not unfounded, but it's not usually the situation as far as I've seen.
Thank you. Evan, you're getting a ton of questions here. I don't know if you're keeping up. People are very interested in the fact that you found out on your own that you had double donors, and questions about when do you think you should have been told, at what age, how you did all this research on your own, how did you even know to find out? You want to just address that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's my great aunt or biological great aunt on the egg donor side. And me and her had been messaging, and we were trying to find out where I came from and why we had such like a high DNA shared percentage and like where I came from. And in doing that, I kind of found like the family tree and sorted it out. And I put it in like the ancestry family tree, and then found who like the daughter of, I found her parents, and then I ended up finding the person who I'd been messaging on Ancestry's Facebook, and I had to just look through her friends. I knew her last name, and I found her, and I was like, oh wow, she kind of looks like me. And so I had set my mind to it that it was her that was my egg donor, and I messaged her. So that's how I found her.
Impressive for a 13-year-old.
Yes, I was 13 at this time.
And how old do you wish you were? Like, how old do you wish? What did you think was appropriate to have been told if you could have?
When I was younger, definitely, at least some understanding of where I came from, because I had so many theories of where I thought I was half robot at one point, because I didn't know where I came from. But I wish I'd had some understanding of it from when I was little, definitely.
Understand. All right, and then we're getting some questions.
Or wizard, depending on the age.
Yeah. Oh, I see. I'm sorry.
So I also want to go back to a question that is relevant also in my family. Is I have 2 biological children and 1 donor conceived children. I don't know, Healy, it's just you and your brother, is that right? So I'm not sure this group can address it, but do anybody else have, it's not appropriate for this group, so I take it back. Never mind.
We have a half sibling who has a sister who was naturally conceived. So
I have intel on that relationship that you can share with us.
No, I only really have intel on the relationship with her and the other half siblings. And I mean, I will say that if we were all together, we knew that she was not our half sibling, but we were also teenagers when we were together.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we were just being teenagers, and I've seen her since, and we feel kind of like distant cousins compared to my half brother.
All right. So
something.
Yeah.
I saw that somebody like earlier was saying, like they're worried about their child, like, resenting them for not giving them a father. And I just feel like that's not like something that they would have any right to feel. So like, I just would hope to like express to any parent like who does that they should not feel guilty for just wanting to have a child, especially if they're dedicating like their life and resources to doing that. I would just hope that like no parents think that, because there's no logical or correct thought that would like give them a reason to resent their parent.
I feel like you just made a lot of like single parents by choice or single moms by choice tear up, because all we want is for our kids to feel fulfilled and happy. And
yeah, and I think
that's just it's such a nice thing to hear. So thank you.
I think just to add on to that a little bit, I think especially if you're here and you're putting in the time, no one is perfect. There's no perfect parent, there's no perfect child. But kids can feel the love, no matter how they were raised, or where you live, where you're from, whatever you do. Like, kids don't understand much, but they do understand love.
Yeah. And another thing is like, I, as a kid, totally did resent my parents at points, like for sure. But that's going to happen with every kid for different reasons. And I can tell you for sure that as your kid grows up and becomes an adult, they will start to understand, all the sacrifices and effort that their parents put in. Like, yes, going through teenager life with a different family dynamic is difficult, but like in the long term, they're gonna be grateful. So like it might be tough at points, but it's always gonna be okay.
Wow. Your parents must be really proud of you right now, just by the things that you're saying. Lizzie, yeah.
Just to jump back to that, oh gosh, I can't remember who it was, but someone feeling guilty about, not giving their child a father. Like, I can't speak for every child, but like my mom and I personally have a relationship where it's just like, it's us, it's the two of us. There's never been like wanting for a third person. Like the idea of someone else coming in just feels weird. I had a dream the other night where she like got engaged like out of nowhere, and I woke up and I was like, what the hell is that? Like there's when I say there's not a void, it's you don't know what you don't know, you know? And that's, I wouldn't say that's something to feel guilty about. It's
Sorry. I was just gonna say, I think that kids who are growing up now are used to seeing so many different types of family structures that it might be less of a big deal than it may seem to you among a lot of kids. That's at least how I feel. I don't think, not all of the families I grew up around were a mom, dad, nuclear family. And I think that children growing up in a loving household will embrace that and realize that they're not abnormal. It's just a different form of a family.
Do you feel like, I know we've said half siblings, half sibs. Do you feel like they're more like siblings, for those of you who know what that feels like? Or do you feel like they're more like cousins or something else, friends?
I mean, I look at Halid as like family, I would say. Like, I don't know, it's different than like friends, I would say, but I also don't have siblings, so it's like hard for me to compare, but it's definitely like its own kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have anything to siblings to compare it to, but like I call Lizzie my sister most of the time. She feels like family, not just like a friend.
Yeah, I was close. I grew up as an only child. No, I have 11 half siblings, at least. But I was close to my cousins growing up. And when I met Will, my first brother, also the one who looks the most like me, I was just like, I don't know what this relationship is, but I feel like I've known you my whole life. Like I could look at his face and like see my expressions, and I could like read him within 5 minutes, and it was like super weird. So I think we also tend to gravitate towards the ones who we share the most facial features with. I've noticed like within our kind of cluster, um, even when like we first meet people, like the kind of newcomers will go straight towards like, we kind of pair off. It's really funny in pictures, like you just kind of see that we're all like standing next to each other.
Yeah.
So we all have different relationships with each other. Like my relationship to Evan is different than my relationship to the twins or whoever. But I think it's its own kind of unique relationship.
Would you have liked to know, like grown up knowing them, like even at a younger age? What would that have been like?
I mean, I definitely would have. I think the excitement about like meeting them, like finally when I was 12 was like super great, but I definitely like wish I would have like met them from when I was little.
Mm-hmm. And somebody asked again, who wasn't here in the beginning, what's your take on dibblings?
It's weird.
It sounds weird.
We spoke on the beginning about language, and dibblings was
it just sounds weird.
It sounds weird. Someone just asked, would you ever consider having a donor conceived child when you're older?
I've thought about that a lot.
I've never thought about that.
I would, and I considered for a while, a few years ago, moving forward and to be an egg donor, but they denied me because I have a sperm donor. And so I didn't have enough information about my genetics, which is
interesting.
Yeah, but I would. I think that I've had a really positive experience. So if necessary, I wouldn't hesitate at all.
Interesting. And we're getting more questions back to the, what is a good age to have met your ideal age to have met your half siblings?
I I think pushed forward meeting, like I was ready at 14 in my first semester of high school. And that's when I was really like, that's when I kind of had my mom show me the profile because I hadn't asked in years.
How old did you say you were?
At 14.
14.
And I remember asking when I was younger to see it, and she said, when you're ready. I was ready then. I wish she had shown me sooner. She wishes she had shown me sooner. But that's when I found Will, and then it kind of all cascaded, and now we're at 11 at least, which is cool. Also, can I jump quickly back to that last one?
Yeah.
I've had many friends, like within the past week alone, like graduating seniors say that they've been considering becoming donors. And that one just like, it sits weird. Like when you know people and you're like, I know that you just need money, but like, this is weird. But like, I remember, I don't think I would use a donor personally, but I've also just never super been interested. I remember being in kindergarten and being like, I'm gonna adopt. Like that's where we're going, I think, but I just can't imagine doing that, I think, for myself.
I met my half siblings my first one when I was 8. So half siblings have always been a part of my life, it feels like. And it was amazing. It was always so fun getting to meet a new half sibling that we discovered. I think it's honestly been the best part about being a donor conceived person is having half siblings. Like hands down for me, it's so enjoyable and you have so much family. Yeah, I mean, Adam came to Asheville and hung out with me, stayed at my house like 2 or 3 weeks ago for a week, and he lives on the other side of the country, and it's great. It's a built-in family and support system.
What do you do if one of your 15, 16 siblings, which, sounds like a lot. I don't know if so far you're making it seem like a positive, but what do you do if one of them is from a completely different socioeconomic level, or if you have more money in your life growing up, more resources, and they don't? How do you all kind of handle that within your larger extended family?
I can't really speak to that. I haven't experienced that really, but I mean, I wouldn't imagine it to create any like uncomfortability really. I mean, maybe it would. It's hard for me to say. I don't know.
Not so much of a issue, Lizzie?
Well, I think socioeconomic status, I think there's not much diversity within the donor conceived community. And I think that is definitely due to, socioeconomic status and class and everything. And I've done a lot of history projects on, the history of donor conception, and the people who have had access to like these medical practices historically have been the people who can afford to pay for it. And, even within the groups, it's like not even, honestly, I cannot name probably more than 3 or 4 people of color off the top of my head in these groups. And it's like hundreds of people. So there is not diversity.
That's really interesting.
Within. And so that's not something that Ev and I have had to face. I'm not sure about Adam or Halit, but I think that is something that like does have to be kind of acknowledged in these spaces.
So we have about 5 more minutes and we have so many questions from the audience. All of you are lovely people. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. Do you feel like you have to tell people you're donor conceived very early in meeting them? How does it work with friends?
I don't ever feel the need to tell anyone. I do share it at some point. It seems to just come up. Some of my half siblings, and this is something I do not tell people ever when I meet them, but some of my half siblings and I did a TV show about the fact that we were donor conceived. So sometimes somebody will find out, like my coworkers this year found out because they somehow heard it, and my partner found out because his coworker Googled my name when we started dating. So that's that's always embarrassing. But I don't know. That's just
So you kind of just shared it with like the 300 people here right now.
I know.
So.
I felt like it's a tight-knit group. They won't tell anyone.
I mean, if we happen to post the link in there, is there even a link? I'm sure there is.
I also, really quickly, I just found this really cute picture of Adam and me 7 years ago. I don't know if you guys can see it. It might be kind of contrasted. Never mind.
Kind of contrasted, but the idea is there.
I love it. I've been looking for that picture. Send it to me.
Okay.
That is really sweet. That is really sweet. What about the rest of you? When, if at all, does it come up in conversation with friends or newbies?
I usually don't tell people about it. I mean, my mom actually doesn't like me talking about it just because she feels that it's an invasion of privacy. But eventually, like when I get close to people, I don't know. I think my conception's kind of cool and like unique, so I just like talk about it. And I don't know. It's not something that me personally that I'm like conserved about or like not open to talking about.
I love talking about it. I've always loved talking about it. I've met so many donor conceived people because I'm so open about it, and I just kind of I don't start every conversation with it, but like even just at Bennington, I've met at least 7 different people who they're like, oh, like I don't really know anyone else who's donor conceived. And I'm like, you should join our group on Facebook. It's just the more it's talked about, the more it's normalized. And I've made so many like amazing connections with people because I've kind of like been as open about it as I am. And like that's the thing, right? Is when like all of the weird experiences I had as a kid of like people just not knowing about it, not knowing what it was because like it wasn't talked about. And then so I think most people in my elementary school, like by the time we graduated, knew what donor conception was. But also I'm from New York City. I don't think I knew what the nuclear family was until middle school.
Yeah.
But like, it's just, I don't know. I love talking about it. And I love just connecting with people about it.
I love that. Okay. We have so many more questions, which means if you are all interested, we're happy to continue with another panel or another conversation another time. But my last question is something that is questioned a lot in some of the groups that I'm a part of as a mom of a donor conceived child. Do you think that anonymous or unidentified donation should be abolished in favor of only open donation, where parents know the donor's identity and therefore their children can know? People get very, very heated about this. You seem very, very open right now and very, you seem like great kids who are doing pretty well in life. But what are your thoughts about that?
As I said before, there's no such thing as anonymity anymore. It's just, I think you are more likely to have a good situation. I, by good situation, I mean putting as much power in the hands of the child as possible. Um, that's my mom used an open donor to give me that choice when I turned 18. I found him when I was 16 because he made the choice to do the DNA test. But I think people who sign up knowing that they're going to be an open donor are more likely to at least, have some form of communication. And, the child or future adult or however you want to refer to them, like, will have that choice. I mean, it sounds like Adam and Haley aren't very interested in having that relationship, but if you wanted to, you could have that choice. And I think that saves a lot of people from pain.
Our donor
Sorry.
was anonymous. We just have had half siblings who pursued finding him and did find him, and he's been, I guess, friendly enough to engage with those half siblings who are interested. But all of our parents chose an anonymous sperm donor from the cryobank. And I never felt regret or angry or anything negative about that.
Amazing. Before we end, I want to thank you all so much. First of all, you should spend some time. You have so many comments to look at that I don't think you probably have been able to go through, but this one is beautiful. It's from somebody from Alberta, Canada. Well, you guys just made my night. As I sit here holding my baby with more love than I can explain, I feel reassured that he will understand my choices. That, as you have said, I have put so much love, time, and resources to get him, and he will be thankful and just know that he is so loved. I live in a smaller city in Alberta, Canada, and this definitely is not seen as common here yet. So of course I have concerns. Thank you so much for sharing. People are just writing, you've made such a difference tonight. You're changing lives. Just being open and having these conversations are so important to us parents who have so many concerns and fears and anxiety. And I'm appreciative. I know everybody is so, so, so appreciative. Thank you so much. You're all going to be getting a survey. And please let us know what else you want to hear from us. We do have a conversation coming up in the next month around when to consider donating. So on the opposite side, if you have extra donor embryos, we're going to be talking about that. And if you want to hear from these lovely young women and men again, let us know. I'm sure they seem open. They have a TED Talk. Lizzie did a TED Talk. Elite, we're not going to share, but we already did. Go back to your comments. You brought it up. But again, we're so, so, so appreciative. Thank you so much to everybody. Please fill out the post-program survey. Emily, thank you for organizing tonight. You are an amazing rock star, and you're going to post the survey in the chat now. And we only know how to serve you all if you tell us what we need to offer you in the form of Zoom webinars. So thank you. Follow us on Jewish Fertility Foundation on all social media, and we will talk to you next time. Thank you, panelists. Really.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.